About to replace a sway bar link on this Cruze. These are fairly inexpensive parts, but often the rubbers are perished or there's looseness in this joint, and that's the reason I'm replacing this one today. And we'll see in a moment when I pull it out, but all the rubber is perished, just allowing water and grit into that joint, which is just going to cause issues. So the first thing I really want to do is get the wheel off, just so we've got some quick and easy access. To start this job, I'm going to remove this nut at the top here. If I'm lucky, I'll be able just to wind it out without having to hold the inner part of this ball joint in here. But you can see there is a splined end in there. If I want to hold it, I can use that. But I'll show you a little trick that I use. But let's first see if we can be lucky enough just to impact this off. Now, unfortunately, what's happening here is the whole ball joint here is just spinning around, and you can see that. So I'm just not going to get it off. What I can sometimes do is if I put some tension on it and just twist this, remembering I'm going to throw this away at the end anyway. Still no luck. I don't particularly want to put a spline bit into there. Just to stop that ball joint from spinning in that plastic housing, I am going to throw these away, so I'm not bothered if it damages this at all. So just a pair of pliers to hold it at the back. And you can see there that I have hold of the whole joint. Sometimes these link pins have a little flat section in here that you can put a spanner on. These particular ones don't. This is the reason I'm replacing it. The rubber is perished. Now that's the easier side. The one underneath is a little bit more difficult. So here's the bottom half of the link pin. And you can see where it's attached. It's a little bit harder to get to. The top half has been taken off, so we can kind of move it out of the way. And here's the nut that needs to be removed. Now for me, this is a 18mm nut, but because there's so many aftermarket ones of these available, you could have any size on here. So as I'm doing this now, I can see that that ball joint in there is spinning, so no amount of turning of this is actually going to undo that. I'll need to hold it with a pair of pliers, or I could use something on that little spline fitting in there. Rather than using pliers, I'm deciding just to use a spline bit. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use the ratchet to rotate it and just hold it still with the spanner. With it that much removed, I can just get the rest with my fingers. It's the nut that'll come off, and then we can withdraw that out of the hole. So here's the link pin that's been removed. This boot's still quite okay on this end, but it's this one that was troubling me. At this stage, the joint's not particularly loose, but it wouldn't take much time before dirt and water gets in there and makes this quite a rattly joint. Replacement is quite straightforward. It can fit either way. There's no top or bottom on these particular ones. Also, because these joints are new and tight, you generally can wind these nuts on without having to hold this, which is a huge advantage as it speeds things up. Take the nuts off both ends. Remember the top one here faces out, so I'll just sit that on there and just run the nut on just to hold it in place. Line up the bottom. And again, just run that nut on. I'm just going to impact this back on for speed, and because that's tight in there, it shouldn't spin, but I am watching to make sure that it doesn't. Okay, moving now to the bottom nut that we need to do up. Again, there's not much room in here, so if you have a ratchet spanner, it can make life easier for you. And again, I just want to make sure that as I'm doing it up, that ball joint is not rotating. And this one is rotating, so I'm going to need to hold it in place. The design of these ones actually has a hex bit rather than a Torx bit, so we'll need just to sit that into the ball joint. With that all done, just double check everything's done up tight, that you haven't damaged the seal in the process, and we'll put the wheel back on and we're done. Now make sure you check out some of my other videos. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you leave them below. Thanks for watching.